Chair now recognizes Ms. Stansbury from New Mexico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member, Governor. Welcome to our witnesses. Thank you for being here today. I've really appreciated your commentary. It's been real, it's been substantive, and I support much of the efficiency work that's being done at the states. But I have to say, once again, welcome to the latest episode of the GOP Oversight Committee, where my colleagues at the beginning of this hearing once again voted to block a good government motion to carry out our most basic constitutional duty. They voted against a motion this morning, just a few moments ago, to bring Elon Musk in front of this committee to discuss what he is doing to supposedly right-size the government, as they are claiming in this hearing. And I have to say to my colleagues, with all due respect, why are you shielding Elon Musk from coming in front of this committee if that is what your intent is with this hearing and the work that you want to do? Why is the GOP in the White House shielding an unelected, unvetted, unqualified private citizen and billionaire who is literally dismantling our agencies while we sit here and is literally breaking the law? Maybe it's because while we're sitting here, he and his team are working across town here in Washington, D.C., entering federal agencies and federal buildings, hacking their data systems, firing federal employees, intimidating them, trying to force them to leave, shutting down vital programs, closing the Department of Education, the CIA, the DOJ, and threatening our domestic and international security, and downloading the private and sensitive data of Americans at the Department of Treasury. So what the hell is going on? How can you sit here and defend this? They are literally breaking the law, the Constitution, appropriations law, federal labor laws, and dozens of statutory laws that Congress has passed. And meanwhile, my friends across the aisle are sitting here today saying that we're hyperventilating, that we're just clutching our pearls. Are you serious? Are you that out of touch with the American people? I mean, I guess that's what happens when you elect billionaires and put billionaires in charge of the federal government. Just let them eat cake? Is that your message to the American people? Because last week, while you were at Trump's private resort in Florida and partying it up after the inauguration, telling the media that funding freezes wouldn't hurt real Americans, well, millions of real Americans were sent into total chaos, and our states had to go to the courts to shut down your federal funding freeze. While Trump was golfing, the Medicaid systems were shut down and locked out. Hospitals and clinics were wondering if they were going to be able to keep their doors open. Food assistance and homeless programs across New Mexico were shut out of their grant programs that keep families literally fed and off the streets. Head Starts, preschools, and children's programs were wondering if they were going to be able to make payroll the next day or by the end of the week. And while Elon Musk and a group of teenage software engineers were hacking your personal data at the Treasury Department, shutting down DOJ, the CIA, USAID, and ending diversity initiatives in the military, saying that the United States military could not honor Dr. Martin Luther King. Our proud military personnel and veterans who put their lives on the line every day for this country were wondering if they were going to get their paychecks and veterans benefits. So, colleagues, we are not clutching our pearls or hyperventilating. We are defending the millions of Americans who are under attack, the federal employees, the mothers, the fathers, the grandfathers, being put out on leave, advocating for the people of color, the women, the members of our LGBTQ+, and yes, our trans community, who are under fire right now, under the guise of canceling DEI programs, under the guise of so-called undoing social engineering after years of progress in this country. We are defending the proud federal service members who defend our national security, who serve our communities and keep our economy running. Because I want to tell you something, the American people are terrified, and if you are that out of touch with your people, then you should talk to your constituents. We had a town hall 2 days ago, and 12,000 New Mexicans got on our call because the people are terrified in this country, and that is why we are fighting back. That is why we are trying to bring Elon Musk to this committee, and that is why we are fighting against this agenda. And with that, I yield back. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome to the very first Subcommittee on Government Efficiency. As was said, this committee is tasked under the Oversight Committee with ensuring that the government and the vital services that it provides, from healthcare to national security, actually work for the American people. And this is certainly a topic that we have worked on for many, many years here in the Oversight Committee, in which I personally have worked on as a former civil servant who worked at the Office of Management and Budget. And in fact, for anyone who has ever worked on these issues, you know that there is ample ground for bipartisan work to make the government work better for the American people and to ensure that it operates in a more efficient manner. And in fact, all of us here on the Democratic side are ready to roll up our sleeves and to get to work. And just last week, I had the opportunity to sit down with the chairwoman and to discuss these very issues and opportunities to work across the aisle. And like the chairwoman who shared some of her background with me, I grew up in a working family. I grew up working for small mom and pop family businesses and understand the necessity of balancing the books, making sure we can deliver, and fiscal responsibility. And that's why today's hearing is focused on making sure that the federal government is doing what it's supposed to and digging into the more than $236 billion in improper payments that we see going out the door every single year. And we need to get to the bottom of that. And we need to make sure that we're putting into place rigorous oversight and controls to prevent fraud and abuse, and of course, to go after bad actors. And that is why myself and the Oversight Ranking Member Connolly and other Democratic members of the committee sent a set of bipartisan ideas that we'd like to work on together that would root out waste, fraud, and abuse and modernize and streamline how our agencies deliver vital programs for the American people. These are programs that are important for our seniors and our families and healthcare and the education system, and we need bipartisan solutions to get across the finish line. And we've been trying over the last several years to get these ideas out of this committee, but unfortunately, the committee's priorities have been elsewhere under the current majority. So I hope we can fix that this Congress. But we can't just sit here today and pretend like everything is normal and that this is just another hearing on government efficiency. I mean, all you have to do is look across this room and see that it is not a normal hearing. Because while we're sitting here, Donald Trump and Elon Musk are recklessly and illegally dismantling the federal government, shuttering federal agencies, firing federal workers, withholding funds vital to the safety and well-being of our communities, and hacking our sensitive data systems. In fact, while we were here discussing government waste on the House floor yesterday, Elon Musk was standing behind the Resolute desk in the Oval Office with the president, and the administration was making emergency court appeals to try to unlock his team's access to the Treasury payment system, which they claim they are using to study improper payments, which is the topic of this hearing. But here's the thing. The Treasury payment system, which includes Social Security information and bank accounts for millions of Americans and data that's critical to national security and the operation of the U.S. government, and payments that go out the door annually equal to almost a fifth of the U.S. economy, is not where the payment decisions are made, because that happens inside the agencies that are currently being dismantled. And the people who actually investigate waste, fraud, and abuse at these agencies are the inspector generals, who Donald Trump fired his first week in office in a midnight massacre. So we have to ask ourselves, what is really going on here? Why did Republicans block Elon Musk from appearing before this very committee last week? Why is the administration so eager to allow Elon Musk and his hackers to have access to proprietary and private information in the Treasury payment systems? Why are our colleagues across the aisle shielding them as they are clearly breaking the law? And why is the vice president trying to rewrite the U.S. Constitution by tweet and undermine the judiciary? So obviously, we're in the Oversight Committee and we have a lot of questions, and so do the American people, especially while our colleagues across the aisle are trying to scoop up the savings from the dismantling of these agencies to pay for the largest permanent tax break in American history for billionaires and the folks that they're helping on their side of the aisle. So let me close by saying this directly to Mr. Elon Musk. We are well aware that you are eager to engage with members of Congress on social media, but we're not here to play. If you have serious desire to engage in democracy and transparency, we welcome you to the Oversight Committee. Come and testify in front of the American people under oath, because we want to know what you're up to. So if you're interested in talking to us, then please join us here in the People's House in the House of Representatives. And with that, I yield back.
The gentlelady yields. President Trump signed an executive order on his first day in office called Establishing and Implementing the President's Department of Government Efficiency. The EO simply renamed an office in the White House that was actually established by President Obama in 2014 called the U.S. Digital Service. President Trump can have Elon Musk into his Oval Office anytime he likes. I now recognize the chairman of the Oversight Committee, Chairman James Comer.
Without exception.
Yesterday, federal employees found themselves targeted by yet another reckless scare tactic by Elon Musk. And as they were asked for 5 bullet points to demonstrate what they accomplished last week, a failure to comply would result in their termination by resignation, according to a tweet by Elon Musk. Hours later, Trump officials in the same administration told their staff not to respond. So in solidarity, let me say what my 5 bullets for the week are. I fought to defend the Constitution and the rule of law. I fought back against these reckless assaults on our people. I heard the heartbreaking stories of how they are impacting New Mexico. I met with tribal leaders, federal employees, and hundreds of New Mexicans, and I headed back here to D.C. to take back the fight, because we will not stop this fight. We will not allow this chaos, this incompetence, and this lawlessness to go unchecked. So I want all Americans to hear me. We will fight back.
The gentlewoman yields.
At this point, I yield 1.5 minutes to the gentlewoman from New Mexico, Ms. Stansbury.
The gentlelady is recognized.
I rise today to oppose this so-called budget resolution, which is one of the greatest heists in American history, as they loot the Treasury to give permanent tax breaks to billionaires at the expense of millions of Americans. We're talking about cuts to health care, Medicaid, Medicare, literally 250,000 New Mexicans who will be unable to access care, cuts to income and food assistance, billions of dollars that goes to families to keep food on the table and a roof over their head, and to give tax breaks to billionaires. They're going to cut vital programs that go to our lowest income and most vulnerable families. And as a native New Mexican who grew up in a single parent home in a low income family, I know exactly what this means. These cuts are cruel, they are unnecessary, they are undemocratic, and they will blow a hole through our deficit spending by $4 trillion. Because this is not a budget resolution, this is a blueprint for suffering, or as Elon Musk put it over the weekend, the spoils of war. because these guys don't care how many people they hurt or how many families are going to suffer. It's about power and greed, and the GOP is enabling them. So we will not sit down and do it. We will not support this budget resolution, and we will not give them
Women's time has expired.
Vote. And I will not be silenced
The gentleman from Massachusetts.
Continue to fight.
The gentleman from Massachusetts is.
Chair recognizes Ms. Stansbury from New Mexico.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I always think that we should sage this room after these hearings because we hear a lot of crazy stuff in here. But let me start out by saying, mayors, welcome to our committee. Thank you for serving your cities and your people. I have to say, as also an elected official, you have the hardest job in America. There is no job harder than being a mayor of a major city. So thank you for serving your constituents. And I want to take this opportunity to especially acknowledge Mayor Wu, because not only are you the first woman to ever serve the city of Boston, if you all haven't been watching, she is also the mother of a newborn who is here with her. She has a 7-week-old baby, and she showed up to testify and be yelled at by our colleagues for 4 hours. So I say to you, Mayor Wu, may your daughter grow up to be a fierce leader like you.
Thank you.
Now, I want to reject the fundamental premise of this hearing, because what this entire effort is about is intimidating state and local officials, attacking law-abiding immigrant families, and spending millions of dollars of taxpayer dollars, both in the administration and in Congress, to make ads that are complete smoke and mirrors, trying to say that Donald Trump has somehow secured America's safety. What they are doing is not making America safer. In fact, it's a total and complete lie, because Donald Trump has failed to actually even secure the border. He's failed to stop illicit drugs like fentanyl from crossing the border. He's failed to secure sufficient staffing and technology to stop human trafficking and illicit drugs from crossing the border. He's failed to support local law enforcement and behavioral health programs to address the issues that are affecting our communities. And he's failed to even execute on the most basic thing that he said he would do, which was to pass immigration reform when he got into office. Here we are, Donald Trump. Where's your immigration bill? Oh, wait, you don't have one. That's right. Because none of this is actually about making America safer. In fact, all of this is making America weaker. He's dismantling our federal law enforcement that would actually go after cartels and drug traffickers. Over the last 6 weeks, Donald Trump has taken out the most senior FBI officials and the officials in our U.S. attorney's offices that were actually prosecuting the cases against the drug cartels. Donald Trump took out the law enforcement that were prosecuting those cases. So let's be real about that. He froze federal law enforcement funds all across the country. I have tribes in my district that still haven't had their DOJ grants reinstated. Let's be real about what's going on here. He's frozen funds to refugee resettlement and other immigrants groups permanently who have outstanding receipts. There are refugees and asylees that had waited decades to get to this country from war-torn parts of the world, and they literally had their flights canceled the last 2 weeks, while Donald Trump is sitting in the Oval Office and offering millionaire oligarchs a free ride into America with his gold visa program. Is this really about making America safe again? Is that really what he's about? Is that really what my colleagues across the aisle are about? Because what I can tell you, as a representative from a great city, the city of Albuquerque, a border state, is that we know what makes our communities safer. It means we stop drugs from coming into our country and our communities. It means that we support and we fund our law enforcement. It means that we fund our behavioral health system. It means that we support our mayors, our tribal leaders, and our state officials. It means that we invest in them. It does not mean that we drag them in front of Congress for 4 hours. We yell at them. We tell them we're going to give them criminal referrals. The DOJ is intimidating paying our mayors, and my colleagues across the aisle are producing TV ads to try to pretend that they're making this country safe again. It's total bullshit. Absolute bullshit. They are not making America safer again, and what they are doing is terrorizing immigrant families. That is what they are doing. Parents who are afraid to send their kids to school, parents who are afraid that they won't come home again, kids who are afraid to leave their houses, refugees who have waited for years to come into this country. And our mayors are sitting here enduring this ridiculous hearing as they've been threatened in front of the American people. And so I will say, in the words of my sister in the front row who brought forward the words of one of our faith leaders just a few days ago on the House floor, I hope that my colleagues across the aisle, who I can tell, most of whom come from immigrant stock, will have the same mercy that our ancestors had shown to them by this country so that you could sit here and be a congressperson.
Gentlelady's time's expired.
Gentlelady is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think insanity is a good word for what's happening here on the House floor today. Another good word is bizarre. You know, when I go home and I tell my constituents what happens in these halls, they're amazed. And today is one of those days where I'm like, what the hell are these folks doing? Because while our economy is in crisis, while groceries and housing are at an all-time high, while our veterans and our firefighters and our teachers are being illegally fired, while Elon Musk is dismantling the U.S. Department of Education, and while the Secretary of Defense is trying to cover up the most incompetent national security leak I have ever heard of in my life, the Republicans in the House are trying to save the American people from the scourge of walk-in cooler and refrigeration efficiency standards. That's right. We are here wasting precious debate time on the U.S. House of Representatives floor debating, dismantling efficiency standards for walk-in refrigerators. How out of touch are you with the American people? Like, literally, I know you're not holding town halls and meeting with your constituents anymore, but you think that the American people voted for you to waste our time on refrigeration standards? That's what you think you were elected to do? Literally, how out of touch are you? Because no American voted. No American, I don't care where you are on the ideological spectrum, you did not vote for this. This is ridiculous, it's preposterous, and it's just stupid. Yesterday, it was reported that the Secretary of Defense and National Security Advisor and the Vice President leaked war plans to a journalist. This is the same administration that accidentally fired nuclear scientists and engineers who maintain our nuclear stockpile. This is the same administration that is illegally firing federal employees and dismantling federal agencies. And you're here running a resolution on refrigerators. And meanwhile, tomorrow, you all are going to hold a hearing and haul NPR and PBS in front of Congress to try to undermine the media, just like you did just here on this floor a few moments ago, as you're kicking the media out of the Pentagon and the White House because you don't believe in the media anymore. Well, maybe this is exactly what the end conclusion of dismantling education and American democracy is, because this is ridiculous, and we will vote no.
Chair now recognizes Ms. Stansbury from New Mexico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to ask a quick question. This is the Oversight Committee, correct? Mm-hmm. That's right. We're in the Oversight Committee. So I have to say I found this to be a very bizarre committee hearing, because here we are in oversight, and our job is to conduct oversight over the administration because of the separation of powers between Congress and the executive branch. And right now, the administration is dismantling the Food and Drug Administration. And we are sitting here and members on both sides of the aisle are asking questions of industry-funded groups about how the FDA is going to protect public health from medicines and food, while the secretary is firing thousands of FDA employees. In fact, just this last week, they announced they were firing 3,500 members of FDA, and RFK Jr. announced that he was going to fire 10,000 HHS employees across the entire agency. So my question is, if this is the oversight committee, why are we not conducting oversight over the administration and their mass firings and the actual deconstruction of the exact agency that's supposed to protect the public health? That is what we should be doing right now in this hearing room. So I find it very bizarre that many of my friends across the aisle are asking, how these folks are going to protect the public health, because they're not, because they're dismantling and taking out the top experts who do this work. Now, some of my colleagues have already pointed out that one of the top vaccinologists, not just in the United States, but in the world, Dr. Peter Marks, was forced to resign. And in a few moments, I'm going to enter his resignation letter into the record because it's instructive. In his resignation, he says that for the last 13 years, he's tried to ensure the efficiency and effectiveness of the science and the public health. And he says at the end of his letter, however, it has become clear that truth and transparency are not desired by the secretary, but rather he wishes subservient confirmation of his misinformation and lies. I've been trying to figure out for the last couple of weeks what exactly the end goal is inside of HHS, what exactly the end goal is inside of FDA, what exactly the GOP's theory of MAHA, of Make America Healthy Again, is. Because today you want to take a vote on dismantling Medicaid. Your president is mass firing thousands of public health officials, including the people who make our drugs, our medications, our food, our cosmetic safety. Your president has announced yesterday that he wants to put tariffs on pharmaceuticals, and you're going after Social Security and Medicaid by dismantling the offices and the services and programs through Doge that actually serve the people of this country. So I don't understand it. I don't understand how this serves the public interest. Dr. Kessler, I am very grateful that you are here today. You are a legend. You are so well known across the public health space, and I know you're not currently serving in this administration, but help us understand the scope and the scale and why the American people need to be paying attention to what's happening inside the agency right now.
20 cents of every consumer dollar is spent on a product that FDA oversees. All our foods, essentially, right, except meat and poultry, USDA does that. All our drugs, all cosmetics, our blood supply, our medical devices, our radiological, many of our radiological devices. The agency is absolutely essential for the safety of the American family. Right? It's also absolutely key for our competitiveness. Right? I mean, I am concerned, right, that China's going to beat us scientifically, if we're not careful with all these cuts that are going on. But the reason I'm concerned about that, it's not about China. It's about the health of us.
And Dr. Kessler, I want to end with this note. As Vera Rosenthal was leaving the department after being fired by the secretary, she said, people are going to die from these cuts. I am not being an alarmist. The day after they announced these mass firings and cuts, pharmaceutical prices tanked on the market, and that was before tariffs. And that's because the ability to get life-saving drugs to market, the ability to save American lives, the ability to get
gentlelady's time is expired.
to our people.
Gentlelady's time is
depends
expired.
on having a functioning.
Gentlelady's time is expired. I now
people are
recognize
going
Mr.
to
Higgins from
die
Louisiana.
If they do not have the
The gentlelady's
public health
time is
protected.
expired.
I am
The
sorry,
gentlelady's
Madam
time is
Chairwoman,
expired.
But the American people
The
need to
gentlelady's time has
understand
expired.
what is happening
Miss Stansbury,
inside this
Miss
agency
Stansbury, the
and
gentlelady's
risks to
time
the
has
public
expired.
health.
No, you're lying to the American people.
I'm sorry, Madam.
You are lying to the
The
American
American
people.
people need to understand their health is at risk, and
Higgins-
this is a
Mr. Higgins is now
five-alarm
recognized.
emergency.
Mr. Higgins from Louisiana is now recognized.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, in Donald Trump's America, not even Elmo is safe. Because over the last 100 days, we've seen an unprecedented attack on the media, and especially our public media. So let me say this. The freedom of the press and freedom of speech are not a privilege. They are enshrined in the United States Constitution, vital to our democracy and to accountability. But we've seen attack after attack, threats on the media and communications companies, outlets replaced in the Pentagon, an order attacking PBS and NPR just this very week, and an attempt to throw the AP out of the White House for daring to tell the truth. These attacks are not just an outrage, they are an attack on our freedom, on our democracy, on our rights as Americans, which is why I rise today to stand for and to fight for a free and fair press, because it is vital to our democracy. I yield back to address the House and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, the American people deserve to know what is happening in this body this week as the GOP is intentionally making moves in the dark of night. Last night at 10 p.m., the Budget Committee passed the reconciliation bill by 1 vote, while 4 Republicans sat it out. And tomorrow night, they will move this shame-filled bill at 1 a.m. in the Rules Committee. What don't they want the American people to know? That their bill will take away health care from 13.7 million people, that it will take food out of the mouths of children, that it will gut environmental programs, that it gives giveaways to tech companies and their buddies, or that it increases taxes on working Americans who are struggling to put food on the table. Let me be clear, when you convene in the dark of night, or whether you do it or not, we will be there fighting for our communities, fighting for our elders, fighting for our veterans, fighting for our kids, and fighting for the future and the dignity of this country and our communities. Because
Expired.
this is about
The gentlewoman's time has
and
expired.
we will not be silenced.
The gentlelady is no longer recognized. Before the House, the following personal request.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, let me begin with a simple fact. No member of Congress should be trading stocks, period, none. That is why I believe we must ban congressional stock trading and why I am proud to co-sponsor this act here in Congress. The American people deserve to know that their members of Congress are working for them, not for stock portfolios, that their decisions, their policies, and their priorities are in the public interest and not the interest of private property, private profit. Because, let's be real, we've all seen it here, even over the last several weeks, as members of this body have traded stocks while working on policies currently before Congress. Possible insider trading in the midst of the president's trade wars. A president and a speaker who both declared it's a good time to buy while members went out and did it. Oil and gas, pharmaceuticals, big tech, and yes, AI. So let me be clear, not only is it wrong and immoral, it must be made illegal. and we will be investigating anyone who engaged in insider trading. But banning stocks is only one piece of restoring faith in our public institutions, especially in a time when billionaires are buying elections and cabinet positions and setting themselves up for sweetheart deals. So let me also say this. We must get big money out of politics and get it out now. We have to end Citizens United, restore the power of the people, end gerrymandering, strengthen our ethics rules, and restore access to the ballot box. That means passing our For the People Act that was blocked multiple times in this chamber, pass the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act, restore the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and pass the Freedom to Vote Act. This is not a partisan issue. This is an American issue about protecting our democracy, protecting our people, protecting our communities, and protecting our planet. So let's do this. Let's do the right thing. Let's ban stock trading and restore our faith in American democracy. With that, I yield back.
I just want to take a second to thank.
And with that, I yield to the ranking member Stansbury for her opening statement.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome indeed to the Doge Subcommittee. It's always an interesting journey here. Madam Chairwoman, before we get started, I want to take a moment to observe that this very subcommittee was created in January to act as the congressional tip of the spear for Doge and Elon Musk's efforts inside the federal government, which our GOP colleagues were falling all over themselves to get in on the action. And in fact, I don't know if you know this, Madam Chairwoman, but one of your own GOP members who couldn't get on the committee actually contacted me to see if I could help because they were so desperate to participate in this activity. But here we are. I feel like we should play a breakup song in the midst of the breakup of the GOP with Elon Musk and Doge, and yet still the zombie lurches on. And you know, I think it's interesting that people are barely saying his name in these halls, and this subcommittee barely has any credibility at this point. And Elon Musk still hasn't appeared under oath in front of this committee or anybody here in Congress. And in fact, Donald Trump himself apparently asked his own aides this week if Doge was, and I quote the president, bullshit. Donald Trump asked if Doge was bullshit. Meanwhile, our friend, Mr. Musk, is going crazy on Twitter. We just checked. He's still going at it. And he literally has been tweet storming the GOP for the last 24 hours. And he says, I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. And you know what I find interesting about his tweet is that he says, I'm sorry, I just can't stand it anymore. And I think, you know, the American people have been there for the last 3.5 months as they've dismantled the federal government, as Musk and Trump and his friends here have helped lay wake to the federal government, dismantling federal agencies, firing thousands of federal workers, stealing your private data, costing the federal government millions of dollars. And in fact, it appears that they may have actually cost more money than they apparently saved. So it's hard to take any of this seriously or with any credibility. Musk lied about Doge and its savings. The president and the speaker just this morning, once again, lied about the big abomination of the bill and the deficit spending in it. There was a misrepresentation of a witness in this hearing last time. There was lies about the budget, reconciliation, and yes, the Doge package, which was transmitted to Congress yesterday. And I don't think I even need to comment on the wild journey of baseless conspiracy theories that we just heard. So, it's very clear that Doge has made America less safe, less secure, undermined our global and national security, compromised our data privacy, impacted our ability to serve our vulnerable communities, and left the government in total chaos. And yet, Many of these Doge brothers have implanted themselves inside of federal agencies and are now answering directly to the West Wing and to the Director of Office of Management and Budget, Mr. Russell Vought, who, by the way, is testifying just across this campus on his bill for the FY26 budget, which would eviscerate these programs. So I want to say, first, they came for our federal agencies. Then they came for our judges and law firms and the rule of law. Then they came for the free press and your freedom of speech. Then they came for higher education and our children. Then they came for congressional offices. And now, here they are, coming for civil society and nonprofit organizations. What are nonprofit organizations? Food banks, legal aid clinics, homeless shelters, organizations that are the glue of our communities. In fact, right now, they are withholding $500 billion illegally from nonprofit organizations that provide services for our communities. Public safety, health services, housing, the big brothers and big sisters of America, Boys and Girls Club and Habitat for Humanity. Is this the dark money scare that we're hearing across the aisle? I think all of us understand what these organizations do in our communities. But let us be clear. The actions that are happening here in this committee and which the administration are trying to execute through executive actions, through letters, and yes, sending Doge employees baselessly and illegally into nonprofit organizations are illegal. They lack moral authority and they lack legal authority. The truth is simple. Neither the president nor any other executive branch official has the power to unilaterally revoke an organization's tax-exempt status or to use these authoritarian tactics to try to intimidate our nonprofit and civil society organizations. And we will dive deeper into that topic and your rights during this hearing. But if my colleagues across the aisle want to talk about dark money networks, we can look no further than this very hearing room, because if we actually want to understand the dark money funded networks that are making the government run right now, let's talk about Project 2025. The witnesses who are here today as part of the organizations that helped to craft it. Mr. Vought, who was at the helm as the architect of that document, and the folks who are inside the federal government right now, dismantling our agencies and attacking every aspect of our democracy. We will not stand for it. And with that, Madam Chairwoman, I yield back.
Without objection, Representatives Gosar of Arizona.
The ranking member of the House Oversight Committee's Subcommittee on Delivering on Government Efficiency, Ms. Stansbury.
All right, well, I want to say thank you to Mr. Min for convening this special order hour. And as we're getting set up here, I know that we've got a poster that we want to get up here. So let me just start out. Do we have a poster here? Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, well, Mr. Speaker, breakups are hard. They're really, really hard. And you know, they're especially hard when they play out in the public eye. And I think anyone would understand that who is online right now and watching the very public breakup of Donald Trump and Elon Musk. I mean, if you've watched over the last several days, it's really been an epic breakup for the ages. In fact, I think it's fit for the Real Housewives if you've been watching what's unfolded, even just in the last several hours. In fact, just a couple of hours ago, Elon Musk affirmed a statement about actually impeaching the president. I mean, who would have thought that we'd end up here? Because literally less than a week ago, they were having a bromance in the Oval Office. So it's really just incredible to think about what's happened over the last 72 hours when you think about it. But I think it's important to understand, I mean, you know, Donald Trump is in office as the most powerful human on planet Earth, as the President of the United States. And rather than thinking about balancing the budget, addressing economic freefall, trying to figure out what to do with our foreign adversaries, how to help you, the American people, engaging on the debate on how to save health care for millions of Americans, or making sure our children are fed in the United States and across the world. Instead, he's been so embroiled in the breakup of his bromance with Elon Musk, they've been going hard at each other all day long. So I wanted to take this opportunity while we had it, honestly, to share the tea with all of you. Because we all kind of knew this was coming, right? We've kind of seen the signs for the last few days, especially the last few weeks. But I don't think that many of us thought it would come in such a dramatic form. So I want to kind of break down and put in the congressional record what's actually transpired over the last 72 hours. Now, I think many of us were shocked when we saw just a couple of days ago when on Tuesday at 1:30, Elon Musk tweeted the following. He said, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those of you who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." Really, we were quite shocked. Let's be clear. All 215 Democrats have been saying this for weeks, but obviously things really boiled over for Mr. Musk on Tuesday. Then, just a few minutes later, he followed up with another shot at Donald Trump where he says, "It will massively increase the already gigantic budget deficit to 2.5 trillion, exclamation point, and burden America's citizens with crushing, unsustainable debt." He went on in the following hours to literally accuse Republicans of making Americans debt slaves. This is actually what's been unfolding on the internet for the last several days. But this bromance is so messy, you guys. This breakup is messy as all hell, let me tell you. So, okay, y'all know that Thomas Massie, who is a true fiscal conservative, who is pretty much the only Republican in this chamber who stands by his convictions and is not willing to sell out his soul for politics and power, voted against this bill because he read the CBO report and he was not going to go and toe the line for the Republican Party. He knew that Speaker Johnson was not telling the truth about deficit spending. He knew that Donald Trump and his sales pitch was not selling the truth. He knew it was going to cost $2.5 trillion at least. We don't even know what the final cost is going to be. But this love triangle got even messier because both Thomas Massie and Senator Rand Paul got in on the mess here. So we have Thomas Massie here retweeted Elon Musk, and he says, he's right. And we saw just around that same time frame, Senator Rand Paul also got involved. But then, oh my gosh, well, Elon Musk, in a fit of passion, I'm sure, he dialed it up even further. And he said later in the day here, it looks like it was about 3:32 p.m. on X, it looks like Elon Musk was retweeting what other people were saying about his attacks on the president and this big abomination of a bill. And Elon Musk says, in November of next year, we fire all politicians who betrayed the American people. You guys, we cannot make this up. This is like the real tea that is going on the internet. So, Elon Musk, he dumped almost $300 million on Donald Trump's election. And he even weighed in and was like, yo, bro, you wouldn't even be president and wouldn't have the majority if I hadn't dropped all my dollars on you. And then Elon Musk, we were actually this was yesterday afternoon, because this went on all night, right? Like, we were all watching it unfold in real time. And even just a couple hours ago here on this floor, we were all like glued to our phones. We're like, oh man, this lovers quarrel is getting messy. And Elon Musk, around 2:50 p.m. yesterday afternoon, we were in the Doge Subcommittee when it happened. He tweeted this. Elon Musk tweets, "Call your senator, call your congressman. Bankrupting America is, all caps, not okay. Kill the bill." And, I appreciate, I'm a 90s kid. He also tweeted a picture of Kill Bill, Quentin Tarantino reference. We all know where you're coming from, Elon. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not a fan. I think we all know that. We've tried to subpoena you several times to come testify in front of the Oversight Committee. You've been giving yourself billions of dollars in contracts. You've been stealing American data. You've been breaking the law with impunity. A couple of people asked me earlier how I felt about what was going on in this lovers quarrel, and I'm like, you know what? Like, you get mixed up with messy people, you get a messy outcome, and it's very clear that that's exactly what's going on. Now, I think we've all been hearing the rumors here in Washington, the breakup rumors. In fact, I think many of us, even on this floor, on both the Democratic and the Republican side, have heard the rumors that Donald Trump was getting frustrated with Elon, that he wanted to be on the helicopter all the time. And, he was like following him around, going to Mar-a-Lago, and showing up to these cabinet meetings and throwing all his money around and all that stuff. And in fact, in response to all the drama, Donald Trump fired back on Truth Social. Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, that he knew for months I was going to do, ! And he just went, all caps, crazy. I mean, you guys, this is getting out of hand. This is really, really, really getting out of hand. So then Donald Trump, really, this is just the, tip of the iceberg, because what else does the leader of the free world have to do all day? He could try to end wars in the Middle East. He could try to negotiate peace deals in Europe. Oh, wait, no, actually, he's cutting funding for NATO. Sorry, I forgot about that. But in fact, he just spent his entire day attacking his aggrieved lover. So Donald Trump, let's see here. This is June 5th at 2:37 on Truth Social, says, the easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it. There's not a lot that Mr. Trump and I agree on, but I'm totally with you, Mr. President. If you want to go after Elon Musk's contracts, we are here for the fight, bro. Give me a ring, for real. We can get this across the finish line, because, obviously, I know you guys were feeling the feelings for the first 130 days, and, there's always a honeymoon period, especially after you go through a big thing together, like an election. And I know he helped you win your election, but obviously now the honeymoon is worn off. But if you really want to root out waste, fraud, and abuse, even Donald Trump is saying it, you guys. Donald Trump apparently even this week asked his own staff if the entire Doge effort was bullshit. And I'm not trying, I know we're on the floor of the House of Representatives, so to all of you monitoring, that's a direct quote of the President of the United States. Let me just be clear on that. But yeah, obviously Donald Trump, these guys know a lot about each other. They've spent a lot of time with each other over the last few months. So, they actually know what's going on. But the battle continued today. In response to Donald Trump's comments about Elon wearing thin, someone, the Autism Capital account, I don't know quite what that is, says, Trump fires back at Elon, the online battle begins, popcorn emoji. And Elon Musk says, such an obvious lie, so sad. I mean, we're all sad, right? Like, it's always sad when a relationship ends. But I think, like, this is when things really got heated. And this is why things are really hard when you're having a breakup and there's like a love triangle with the GOP, these guys over here. I mean, there's nobody here anymore, just in case you're wondering. No Republicans except for the acting pro tem here. But, I mean, like, the thing that's so crazy, right? Like, we all get wrapped up in our friends and their relationships, and the Republicans were like, okay, Mr. Trump, like, Elon's obviously your bestie, and he spent all this money, so we'll go along with it, even though apparently the cabinet and Republicans were really unhappy about it. And they're like, okay, fine. But then, like, we're going scorched earth here now. And it was actually really interesting to me earlier here on the House floor, because I was like, well, how are Republicans dealing with it? Honestly, I haven't seen you guys cheerful in quite a few months. So clearly something's about to happen. So Elon Musk, where are we at here on the time frame here? This was actually shortly before I came to the floor this afternoon. Tweets, time to drop the really big bomb at real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. And then he says cheerfully, have a nice day, Donald Trump. I mean, we all know what happens in breakups. But obviously, like, you guys, they got the tea on each other. And this is like a no holds bar breakup fight happening right now. But finally, like, this was like the mic drop of all mic drops. Just as I was walking onto the floor this afternoon, Elon Musk tweets, yes, in response to some other person who I don't know, who tweeted, President versus Elon, who wins? Trump should be impeached. Now, we've all been through really hard breakups, but I don't know if you guys remember, but like 140 days ago or so, like, it was a love fest. They were here in the Capitol. It was so good. Elon Musk was like, yo, President, I'm going to like save the government from debt slavery, which is his words, and the deficit. And like, these bros were on the helicopter every day. They're going down to Mar-a-Lago. And now Elon Musk is calling for the frickin' impeachment of Donald Trump, you guys. I mean, that is some serious, serious business. So, what does this all mean in reality? I mean, it's happening in real time. I haven't even checked my phone since I started this conversation. There might be more drama going down just since we started this very conversation on the floor. But the reality of the situation is y'all both got what you paid for. Mr. Musk, you spent almost $300 million in dark money to pay for your friend, Mr. Trump, to become the president and to win this Republican majority who is trying to send our country into the largest deficit spend in American history. And Mr. Trump, I mean, this is what happens when you sell your soul. I mean, you see what happens. So I have a lot of love in my heart for people who are going through hard times. And I know that, you know, both you guys are having a hard time. But I just have to say, for the sake of democracy, for the sake of the American people, and frankly, for the global security and safety of people all over the planet, y'all need to cut this drama out. I mean, we need to take care of our people. So I'm with Musk on this one. I don't mean to take sides, Mr. President, but I'm going to say it. Kill the bill. And with that, I yield back.
Chair now recognizes Ms. Stansbury from New Mexico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, some interesting theatrics today. Welcome, everyone, to the Oversight reality TV show. I know Mr. Trump loves himself some good TV, and today is not disappointing. And in fact, I want to say welcome to some of the members who've showed up to this committee who I've never seen here before. It's great to have you here in the hearing room with us. Now, Before I get started on the topic at hand, I want to take a moment to speak directly to the immigrant community who might be watching and listening today. I want to say to everyone out there who is living in fear, we see you, we love you, we respect you, and we are fighting for you and every community that is being targeted by this administration and this Congress. We also want all of you out there to know that you have rights. You are protected by the law, and you should not have to live in fear and wonder whether or not you're going to be safe if you leave your home or if your family is going to come home at night. We see you. We are fighting for you. You have rights. Now, let's turn to the situation in California, which, of course, much of this hearing has focused on. As someone from a Marine veteran family, let me be clear. Marines are combat troops. They are highly trained, highly disciplined, lethal fighting force combat troops, and they should never, never be deployed against the American people who are exercising their constitutional rights. This is a gross and disgusting abuse of power. A disgusting abuse of power by fake tough guys who think that they can intimidate our communities while taking away their rights. And this is from the same man who dodged the draft and called our military service members suckers and losers. That's your commander-in-chief. And here, these folks here and the president want to say they're for our military and our veterans while they're illegally deploying service members, violating state sovereignty, gutting the VA, firing generals and lifelong service members. And you all want to sit in here and play like you're with the military and the American people while Donald Trump is planning to spend $45 million of your hard-earned taxpayer dollars on a fake military parade this Saturday that they can't even fill, that they put a super PAC ad on Craigslist to recruit citizens of the city of Washington, D.C. to go stand in the parade route. Congratulations, it's made for TV. But this is serious because this is an abuse of power. So I want to read a list of grievances: obstructing the administration of justice, refusing to assent to the laws for the public good, sending swarms of officers to harass our people, keeping standing armies without consent of our legislatures, transporting Americans overseas to be tried for pretend offenses. Mr. Chairman, I wonder, do you know where these offenses come from? No? Aw, that's too bad. Because it's actually the Declaration of Independence. That's right. It's the Declaration of Independence. And my colleagues across the aisle might want to bone up on that in the U.S. Constitution before they go attacking our communities, especially as we head into the 4th of July holiday and celebrate our independence from an abusive and mad king. Because here in America, there are no kings, and we reject people who believe they are. And no one is above the law, and we will hold them accountable. But I think it's very clear today, and I think it's been borne out by every witness that we have here, that what Donald Trump is doing is not only an abuse of power, an abuse of the military, an abuse of our citizens, but also, y'all should know this, while you're sitting here creating this made-for-TV moment, that 2/3 of Americans, according to the polling yesterday, are opposed to what Donald Trump is doing with both immigration and the deployment of the military in our communities. It's wrong, it's immoral, it's illegal, and it's a violation of our rights. And with that, I yield back.
Chair recognizes Mr. Langworthy from New York.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Governor Hochul, yes or no, do you think someone who's committed murder or rape in this country, in that they're here illegally, should have tools at their disposal to avoid deportation?
Time has expired. In closing, I want to thank our witnesses once again for their testimony today. I now yield to Ranking Member Stansbury for closing remarks.
All right. Well, that's another Doge subcommittee in the books. And another morning and a number of hours of our lives that we will never reclaim spent here doing more political theater with our friends across the aisle as the president is starting wars in the Middle East. And by the way, news just broke, canceled the classified briefing that had been scheduled for Congress without a rescheduling. He's deploying United States troops against our people here in the homeland. And this Congress, controlled by these folks right over here, is trying to gut your health care, food programs, and steal your public lands while saddling the American people with trillions of dollars in debt to pay for tax breaks for billionaires. This is one of the most unpopular domestic and global policy agendas in modern history. And they're here trying to convince you all that we should make Doge permanent. But here's the thing. The GOP may continue to try to make Doge a thing, but no matter how hard they keep trying, GOP will never make Doge happen. Even with their Regina George out of the picture, that's Mr. Elon Musk in this scenario, Americans just aren't buying tickets to this show. And just like the movie business, House Republicans' Doge reboot isn't hitting like they thought it would. And in fact, a majority of Americans actually oppose Doge cuts, a number that will only grow as the devastating and real-life impacts continue to sink into everyday life for all of us. And I think we've all seen this film before, and we didn't like it. The fact is, Doge is costing taxpayers more than it is saving, and Donald Trump has spent more of your hard-earned taxpayer dollars in his first 6 months in office than any other president in modern history. That's right, he spent more money than the last president just in the last 6 months, going golfing and doing other random things. While the Republicans are actually trying to increase federal spending in reconciliation with trillions of dollars in tax breaks and kickbacks to their donors. But despite this box office bomb, that's Doge, here in this subcommittee, we're stuck on repeat, watching the rerun over and over again as the GOP continues to roll out the same tired talking points that got Elon Musk fired in the first place. And not only that, we're seeing the same kinds of witnesses backed by the Heritage Foundation and their allied organizations coming to testify again and again, attempting to back up a flailing administration and its flailing policies. So where are we? In case you forgot, the Heritage Foundation is the same organization that brought you Project 2025, which is what this is actually all about. A show that was so unpopular that even the president and members of this committee tried to distance themselves from during the campaign season and even lied to the American people about. But the American people are smart, and they're watching, and they know what a scam is when they see it. You cannot run away from Project 2025 because it's right here. And we will not let you destroy our government, our democracy, our institutions, and our freedoms. And we will hold you accountable. Medical trials ended, veterans' benefits cut, Social Security decimated, thousands of children without food and medicine, thousands dead across the world, American lives upended. That is Doge's legacy. But it's clear, however, no matter the impact, the Trump administration and the GOP doesn't seem to care, because Doge isn't actually about waste, fraud, and abuse. It's not even about cost cutting or making the government more efficient. It's a means for pushing their political agenda on the American people. And if you couldn't tell already by their obsession with the culture wars, from attacking education to slashing global food aid to stripping health care, this is about remaking American society. They want to remake our country in a hyper-conservative image, just as they laid out in Project 2025. The American people know what's going on, and this is not the sequel we asked for. So, I want to just take a note from America's real anti-hero and to say to Mr. Elon Musk, as far as we're concerned, you're just another picture to burn. And to Doge, now we got problems, and I don't think we can solve them. You made really deep cuts, and baby, now we're bad blood. I think we're out. I yield back.
I now recognize myself.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Doge Subcommittee. Notwithstanding the abject failure of the Doge enterprise inside the federal government and the epic breakup of Elon Musk and Donald Trump, here we are again. Once again in this committee. I'm grateful that the chairwoman showed, again, one of my favorite videos, which she showed on the first day of the subcommittee. I'm grateful because it highlights the work that we've been doing for decades to root out waste, fraud, and abuse, including work that I was intimately involved in as a budget examiner in the Office of Management and Budget, in which we actually eliminated waste, fraud, and abuse. But unfortunately, as my friends across the aisle in the GOP and their Heritage Foundation witnesses are still trying to make Doge happen yet again, the American people are over it. In fact, you don't have to take my word for it. A poll from just 2 weeks ago found that 67% of voters believe Doge has done a bad job. That was just 2 weeks ago. And in fact, when I told one of my friends that we were having another Doge subcommittee hearing, they asked, really, is that still happening? Because literally the American people are over it, except for that it's not funny, because Doge has been used to wage a chaotic, destructive, and ideological war against the American people and the vital programs that they depend on. But I'm going to turn to that in just a moment here. Given everything that's happening in the world right now and with this administration, I don't think we can sit here and pretend like everything is normal, because just 4 days ago, the president launched an unauthorized military attack in Iran without the consent of Congress, putting our troops and our bases in harm's way, as we saw just last night with the retaliatory bombing of one of our largest bases. And Madam Chair, I have actually been extremely grateful and wholeheartedly agree with your outspoken advocacy against this war. But like so many in this administration, so many days and weeks, this follows weeks of chaos here at home. As the president has deployed U.S. Marines and National Guard on our own soil against our own people, his DHS secretary and federal officials shoved a U.S. senator to the ground, DOJ indicted a sitting congresswoman in this House for doing her job, and tried to arrest a New York City official in a federal courthouse. This is not only not normal, it is dangerous, it is anti-American, and it is anti-democratic. And so we're not going to sit here today and pretend like what this administration is doing is normal. And we're not going to sit here and pretend like Doge is just some normal government program. It is a scam in service of a political agenda. While we came to the table at the beginning of this whole process in good faith with real ideas, bipartisan ideas that folks have been working on for years, and a desire to actually fix and modernize the federal government, what we've seen from Doge is the exact opposite. It has so failed in its stated mission of saving money that even the president asked if it was bullshit as Elon Musk was exiting the building. And if they want to talk about fiscal responsibility, while we're sitting here, they're still trying to pass a reconciliation bill across the aisle that would saddle taxpayers with $2.5 trillion in deficit spending. And in the last few weeks, reports have revealed that Doge may actually have cost the federal government more than it actually saved because of the mass firings, dismantled agencies, stolen data, lawsuits, agencies in chaos, agencies that are not able to do their basic operational duties. This is not efficiency. This is a scam. And that's not even to mention the completely reckless and needless suffering that Doge has caused. We're talking about millions of children and people across the planet who no longer will have access to food and medicine because of the very $9 billion rescission package that was just discussed. Thousands of veterans and public service servants here at home whose lives have been shattered, and millions of Americans who've been impacted by the gutting of vital programs, including staffing at Social Security. And now they're here today to try to make the case for making it permanent. Are you serious? Really? Are you serious? I can't even believe my ears. So why are they actually trying to make Doge permanent? Well, I think you have to look no further than the witnesses that they've called over the last several hearings, including today. We've got the Heritage Foundation and other authors and architects of Project 2025. And so we have to be real about what this is actually about. It's not about efficiency. It's about a political agenda, an ideological agenda, about remaking the U.S. government, about remaking our economy and our society in line with a hyper-conservative worldview that is so unpopular that even Donald Trump tried to distance himself from Project 2025 during the campaign. And now he's hired over 70 officials to try to enact it, and now they're trying to use this committee to make the case. Now, they like to try to claim that they're taking on cancel culture and a woke agenda, but let's be clear, Doge and the folks who want to make it permanent are the actual cancel culture, because they want to cancel anything that they don't like or they don't agree with, including your democratic rights and your freedoms, economic opportunity and education, LGBTQ plus rights, rolling back the clock on civil rights, canceling the history of Black, Chicano, and Indigenous communities, and stripping protections from our families and the healthcare, housing, and food people depend on so that they can give more tax breaks to their friends. But this is all part of a wider agenda that is now seeking to apply political purity tests to government programs and services, including both federal employment and, yes, veteran services. Let me repeat that again. Even veterans benefits. They want to apply political purity tests to your VA benefits. Folks, this is not about efficiency. This is about eroding and privatizing our institutions, gutting programs that keep our people and our country safe. It's about rewriting history and remaking society to take us back decades, if not centuries. In short, it's about making this country less free, less democratic, less prosperous, and frankly, consolidating power under Trump and his allies, who are becoming increasingly dangerous, ideological, and yes, autocratic. So we have to be clear-eyed about what is actually going on, because this administration and its allies, if they are willing to arrest and indict elected officials who are just doing their jobs, including a U.S. senator and a U.S. congresswoman, what will they do if we let them get away with it? We cannot and we will not remain silent. We have to continue to speak up, to speak out, and continue to stand together. I yield back.
Without objection.
The House is not in order. Gentlelady's recognized.
And it makes me wonder, have you even read this bill? I mean, really, because this bill rescinds $9 billion for international aid, public health, and public media. It will make America less safe. It will undermine our national security, and it will threaten lives across the world and kill children. But on top of that, it undermines our Constitution, the power of the people, the power of the purse, and the separation of the power of our Constitution. As Russell Vogt, OMB, and the architects of Project 2025 are trying to use this rescission bill to undermine the power of Congress. And that is why we will vote no, a hell no, to the blatant power grab that it represents in the face of a chaotic and corrupt administration.
Time has expired.
Congress that is stealing from
Gentlelady is no longer
people.
recognized. Members are reminded to direct their remarks to the chair. The gentleman.
Well, I'm Melanie Stansbury, and I represent New Mexico's 1st Congressional District. And I want to say that I'm truly stunned by what I heard today. The thing about being a victim of assault, of sexual violence, is that it not only steals your sense of self, it steals your dignity, it steals your ambition, it steals your hopes, it steals your dreams, and it steals your sense of personhood. And what we heard today is from a half-dozen victims, some of whom have already pursued both civil and criminal suits against both Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, as well as from several who have never told their stories in public before. But before I turn to the substance of the case itself, I want to say to anyone out there who is currently experiencing abuse of any kind, we see you. we are here fighting for you, and we will fight for justice for every person who is experiencing sexual violence in this country, and that is what this case is actually about. But I want to be clear that what we heard today is a cover-up, and it is a cover-up of epic proportions, a cover-up involving the United States government, the justice system, rich and powerful individuals, a cover-up potentially involving foreign countries and foreign actors. And yes, here today in this House, as our colleagues are up in the House chamber in the Rules Committee, a cover-up by the Republicans in this chamber. Because as you will find out in the coming days and weeks, this goes all the way to the top. So let's be clear about that. There has been a systemic failure of the justice system for decades. A systemic failure to hold people who are powerful and have money to account, and that has allowed not just hundreds but potentially thousands of women, not only in the United States but around the world, to be bought, sold, and trafficked for sex, not only by Jeffrey Epstein but by his associates and his rich and powerful friends. And as these stories come forward, whether they're stories that have already been told, they're stories in those FBI files that have not been released by the Department of Justice and which they must release because of the subpoena, or whether they are stories of victims that have not yet come forward, we will hold you all accountable for this miscarriage of justice, for the abuse of these women, and the abuse of this institution to try to cover it up. Because there happens to be a very powerful person at the top who doesn't want these stories out. So that is why we subpoenaed these records. That is why these victims were here today to bravely tell their stories. And whatever justice looks like in the coming days and weeks and years, we will follow every thread. We will follow every piece of evidence. We will follow every bank record. We will follow every investigation. We will follow every court order, and we will make sure that those who were abused by these men are held accountable.
Gentlewoman from New Mexico is recognized for 2.5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I have to say I'm always amazed, disturbed, sometimes can't believe what I hear on this floor. We're sitting here today as a government shutdown is looming. Survivors of the crimes committed by Jeffrey Epstein and his associates are here on this campus sharing their harrowing and heartbreaking stories. The court has just ordered that Trump's illegal tariffs have been put in place and are harming Americans and violating the law. And the president is deploying our brave men and women who serve in the National Guard to occupy American cities. And what is the GOP's agenda for this week crammed into this one bill that we're here to debate? One fake appropriations bill that they know will never pass. 3 resolutions to undermine protections for the environment. 1 resolution snuck in the dark of night to reconvene the January 6th Commission to try to rewrite history, and 1 resolution designed to provide Donald Trump and the White House cover in one of the largest Epstein cover-ups we've seen. This isn't about protecting people. We have a bipartisan discharge petition right there at the clerk's desk. If my colleagues would like to see the files released, the 2 of you who are in this chamber right now could literally walk down there and sign that petition right now. But you don't want the files released. You want it controlled by the Oversight Committee. Because if you did, you could sign that petition right there that would release those unredacted files. Now let's also be clear. Donald Trump issued a statement today that said to all of you, you Republicans here in this chamber, that if you sign that discharge petition, he will count it as a hostile act. That's right, the United States president is threatening members of his own party in this chamber from signing a petition that would release the full unredacted Epstein file. So my question is, what are they hiding? Who are they protecting? And why are our colleagues failing to have a backbone not only to stand up for the survivors, but to stand up for the American people? I yield back.
Gentlewoman's time has expired. Does the gentleman?
The gentleman yields. I now recognize Ms. Stansbury for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Well, there's a lot going on in this hearing, so I want to kind of break it into pieces because I think it might help parse out some of the challenges I think the conversation is having. So let's talk about cloud seeding as a technology. As a technology, the idea of cloud seeding is just it's based on the physics of clouds, which is that in order to have rain or precipitation, a water droplet has to be heavy enough to condense to fall out of a cloud. That's what cloud seeding is based on. And so there's been experimentation going back to the 1940s to introduce different particles into the atmosphere to see if dust or these other chemicals can create a precipitation moment, and has been identified by a number of our witnesses today. There is still a lot of research to be done about its efficacy. There are studies that have showed in certain instances it may have increased the probability of a specific incidence of precipitation, but there's also a lot of data needed, and there's a very robust analysis that GAO has engaged in and talked to experts. So that's the science around cloud seeding. That's cloud seeding. But climate change is a different situation. Let's talk about climate change. And I think every single witness here has identified that there's no dispute in the scientific community that global carbon emissions have gone up, and that we know from observational data. This isn't a theory. This is not like, oh, we're trying to figure out if this is true or not. The data are very clear. We have had an increase in global temperature. It has manifested in regional temperature increases across different parts of the planet. And in places like the American Southwest, like where I'm from, it has manifested in an increase in temperature year after year, especially over the last 30 years, a decrease in precipitation year after year for the last 30 years, and the most intense drought we've seen in recorded history since there was a major geologic change in the planet. That's just facts. That's just observational data. That's just measuring what we see in the environment. So there's no dispute over that. And so what scientists have consensus about is that carbon is a pollutant that is coming from industrial activity all around the planet. It is a challenge that involves the commons, which is our atmosphere. I agree wholeheartedly with the chairwoman that we should be regulating, spraying, or putting things into the atmosphere, and that's exactly what the EPA does. That is why the EPA, on the consensus of scientists not only across the United States, decided to regulate the emission of carbon, because we know it's contributing to changes in the global atmosphere, that's increasing energy in the atmosphere, that is producing measurable effects on the ground. Now, I agree that the incidence of individual weather events, the ability to change the trajectory of individual weather events, whether it's something as powerful as a hurricane or something as powerful as an atmospheric river, as was stated by Dr. McCracken, those are events that are so massive in scale. We don't know that an individual entity or pollution in one place is culpable, if you will, for an incident happening. What we're talking about is a change in global chemistry and global atmospheric physics that is driving the distribution of weather events all across the planet. And that is why it is a common pool problem. It is why we need international climate agreements. It is why tens of thousands of scientists around the world are urging countries to take climate action now. It is why the United States regulates carbon, or was until Donald Trump took away those regulations just a couple of months ago. It's why we measure carbon emissions. It's why we're prepared as Democratic members of Congress to go show our faces and good faith on international forums that the United States still stands strong with climate action. Because as one of my colleagues just pointed out across the aisle, it is an international problem. It is an international problem. Pollution in one side of the planet affects the entire global commons, and that is why we need climate action in the United States and every single country on planet Earth, because it affects all of us. So that's what the science tells us, and I want to just be clear on that. And with that, I yield back. Hi.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, of course.
If you could just kind of summarize what went on, and would you characterize this as a successful, productive discussion today?
So today we began this investigatory interview on the record under oath with Alex Acosta, who of course was the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida at the time that Jeffrey Epstein was offered a plea and non-prosecution agreement. Our main objectives were to get to the bottom of why this peculiar non-prosecution agreement was offered, why the federal government did not pursue federal charges, why a sweetheart deal was given. And I'm going to be honest with you, the witness did not provide answers. He used every opportunity to defend, obfuscate, and duck the questions, and it's still not clear why the U.S. Attorney and Department of Justice did not prosecute this case. Even by his own admission, had they done a federal plea deal, Jeffrey Epstein could have been sentenced to 5 years in prison. But instead, not only did Department of Justice insist that it be handled at a state level, the line attorney, the prosecutor for DOJ, was directly negotiating the state plea deal without the state even looped into the discussion. So none of this still makes any sense. We're no closer to understanding the motive behind why Mr. Acosta made this decision, and he certainly wasn't forthright about why he made that decision.
No, did he take any personal responsibility, or did he try to push it onto someone else? Do you feel like he showed any kind of responsibility or remorse?
I would say that at multiple occasions he validated the truth that it was his decision to pursue a non-prosecution agreement. When pressed on the matter, we asked about whether the chain of command below him had recommended non-prosecution at the federal level, and he admitted that the line prosecutor, as we already know, highly recommended prosecution at the federal level, and in fact had written an indictment.
Did he provide any clarity as to how it was that Jeffrey Epstein was able to still commit some of these horrendous acts even after he had already been prosecuted and sentenced by his office?
So his office did not prosecute. That is the problem. In fact, Acosta chose, it was his decision, and he owned that today. It was his personal decision, even against the recommendations of his own line prosecutors, to not pursue federal charges. He was the one who chose to push it back to the state. But what is peculiar and does not make sense here is that he himself said he didn't trust the state prosecutors. And so why did he send it back to the state instead of pursuing federal charges when his superiors at DOJ said there was clearly federal charges? He was the one who decided to send it back to the state, and then he had his federal attorneys negotiate the plea and non-prosecution agreement. And so as a result of that and that decision, ultimately he took a plea deal in which he received 18 months in a county jail under work release. And that's how Jeffrey Epstein was enabled to continue to commit crimes against young women, including, we talked to a victim last week who said that she was hired by the Florida Science Center that Jeffrey Epstein was, the financial backer for, and she thought she was going there to work as a science educator, and she was in fact groomed to be sexually abused. And so not only was he allowed to be free under work release, He was specifically using this institution where he was work released to, that he financially backed, to abuse women.
Is there anyone else that you would like to hear from coming out of this conversation? Would you like to hear more from Secretary Acosta at some point?
Oh, there's a lot of people we'd like to hear from, but certainly, I think there are a whole slew of other witnesses in this case. There are a whole slew of co-conspirators that we know were intimately involved in the large-scale financial transfers, the actual physical movement of women and children through Jeffrey Epstein's life, and of course the financial records and transactions and the financial institutions that at best look the other way, as they knew financial crimes were being committed, but at worst were complicit in them.
And can I ask, did he talk about the work release program? Was that part of the deal his office made? Did he sign off on that? Did that come up at all?
It was discussed, but it was the result of the decision that he made to not pursue federal charges. So ultimately, at the end of the day, a plea agreement was worked out with his staff. In fact, if you speak to the victims' attorneys, they have the actual correspondence between the DOJ prosecutor and Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer, and you can read the emails for yourself. I mean, they literally went back and forth for weeks about what Epstein would plea to that ultimately allowed for his work release. So it's a direct result of what DOJ negotiated with him.
I know the attorneys for the victims and survivors told all of us that they speculated about some kind of like CIA connection and that perhaps that was why he got the plea deal that he got. I'm wondering did anybody ask about that? Was that ever brought up?
The majority did ask a line of questioning about whether or not Mr. Costa was aware of Jeffrey Epstein having some sort of foreign intelligence or domestic intelligence connection. And like many of the answers he gave, he said he was not aware of any, but that does not necessarily validate the truth or non-truth of whether or not there was some connection there. But that was how it was answered in the room.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah.